Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda Marie, back with Kristina Murphy, and we are ready to do our mindful mental breakdown. And that is right. We changed the name because we are no longer committing to the Monday mental breakdown. We told you from the beginning we weren't committing to it, so it's not like we went back on our word. Like the graphic literally says maybe. Like there was in our last episode, I was like, we might do this every Monday. Like we don't know. And we realized that limiting ourselves to that specific day every week was a little much for what we were looking for right now, and that it didn't mean that we couldn't still do this every week, or at least when it calls to us, if we were a little more vague about it. So we're going with mindful mental breakdowns on Mindfully Chaotic. Amanda Marie, Kristina Murphy, here we are. We're here to break it down with you. We're going to tell them. So,
We are.
Kristina, I feel
Yeah.
like you and I have had multiple of those calls this week where we were like, maybe we should have recorded that. Or we even started recording a couple things and like we were both running around and we were like a little like, you know what? No, we're not here. We weren't really in the mindset. But I don't know. Do you feel as proud of us as I do about the fact that we're not letting the fact that it doesn't look exactly how we thought it was going to stop us from keeping the consistency going?
Yeah, I think it's important to, even though we have like clearly commitment issues, we're not letting ourselves totally off the hook and just saying fuck it like I would in the rest of my life. It's, you know, we have to accommodate ourselves and we can't have these like rigid things which don't work for either one of us, but we do need some sort of accountability, which is very helpful of like, oh, okay, like we're still showing up for ourselves, we're still telling them, and we're not just saying fuck it and throwing in the towel because it wasn't exactly how we said it was going to be. Because let's face it, we both have children. We both have kind of fluid spaces that we're in right now. Appointments, kids are going back to school very soon, so we can't say that Monday is going to be the day, but we can switch it up. We'll sprinkle it in where we can, but as long as we hold ourselves accountable, we're talking anyways. So it's, that's the beauty of this is like we make it work for us.
Yes, exactly. And I really feel like it's so funny the way it aligns with the whole idea of practicing what we preach because this is what we've been part of what we've been wanting to tell them, In life, we're constantly setting up these well, you said it perfectly, like these rigid ideas of like these structured ways that it has to look, and we think that if it doesn't go that exact way, we failed or we should stop and just give up. And I think it can be tied into a lot of professional and personal things that we do, like as a whole, like in humans. like
Right.
we set these ideas for ourselves. And honestly, I really feel like that's what hinders a lot of the creativity. I think that a lot of people in life, the word artist has a very specific meaning to some when really it shouldn't be like that, right? Like the word artist should be I believe art when it's all said and done is whatever you want it to be. I actually specifically said that to my students when I was teaching high school art is like art is that is the answer we came up with together. Art is what you want it to be. And I think that we have lost there's such a important thing to actually looking at life as an art, and we're supposed to be able to create it the way we want it to be, whether it's like in these unique creative ways that completely only work for us, or if even if it's like even if you are a person who actually thrives off of the structure that society has created, there's no shame in that. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. The problem is we are in a world where we believe that everything should just work for everyone. And I do think we've gotten a little bit better as time has gone on with starting to realize that there has to be different ways of looking at things, and that sometimes what I do and like my path, we might be going to the same destination on completely different paths. So,
Right, right. And it's like we don't know what's going on in everybody's lives, right? So it's like we only see what they show us. And, 1 minute from the next can shift, especially when you're having children, and you should be able to create in those moments with your kids, without your kids, and how do we make it work for us. It's not a one size fits all, just with, and I say with air quotes, healing, because it's just a journey. We're just on a journey. It's not healing. It's just like moving to the next level and kind of deciding, getting clarity around everything that we want and we want to call in. But why can't we create? Like we're shut down, and then we shut ourselves down because it doesn't look a certain way. It's not put in this box, and that's really unfair, and it's keeping us all from doing it. Instead of, like, it's going to be messy, it's not going to be perfect, and then we get into the perfectionism spot, and then that puts us into that freeze space of like, I'm not doing it, I'm just not going to do it because it doesn't matter, even if it's making us feel good.
Yes, or to that same point, if it's making us feel worse because we're not doing it. Like that should
Right.
be enough sometimes. We should see like, oh, this makes me feel better. Like I should do more of this. But as humans, we actually guilt ourselves for doing the things that make us feel better sometimes because we feel like we should be structuring it all a certain way. I mean, that's how I feel at least. But I have been really heavily on that lately, as you know, and that's because I'm personally trying to work through a lot of those human life obstacles, those mental blocks that we put on ourselves, the reality of what it all is, what I want it to be. And I see it. Like I see the things I started putting into motion years ago falling into place. And I think it gets even more frustrating now that I can almost like, I am literally there. I can touch it. But then I have all of these other like random, just daily human life things that are like standing directly in front of me, like, not yet, not yet. And it's like so frustrating because I think that in the past, those are a lot of like, that's what usually makes me stop and be like, okay. And then I end up, you know, back at the beginning of the cycle and doing like a bunch of stuff that doesn't align and make sense. So I do feel like one of the things that I'm proud to take away from all of this is that even though it's stressful and I may have my moments and I may have my breakdowns and I may even call you crying sometimes, but I do feel differently than I did years ago when stuff like this would happen. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I'm being honest. Like, I can remember full blown crashing out for like extended periods of time when stuff goes wrong and just giving up. And the thing is, I'm just like really proud to say that I'm personally at a point where I'm ready to just not give up anymore. Even if, and I'm not saying that I'm never going to feel like that anymore either, like, because I'm probably going to feel like that in 10 minutes again. But what I mean is that I'm able to get to a point where I've realized that, like, okay, the cycle keeps repeating itself. The only thing that can change it is me. Like, a bunch of obstacles are going to come, and all I can do is learn how to navigate those. It sounds easier said than done because it is, but it is simple. Like, it's a simple
Right.
process.
Right. And we make it more than it has to be. Like we're overcomplicating it, but when we strip it down, it's like, why are we following rules that were placed upon us that don't serve us anymore? And like, they don't even make any sense at all. Like, it's and it also comes back to like boundaries with ourselves, and we have to remind ourselves every single day, like every day might look different, but also like, why are we pushing away stuff that brings us joy or things that do make us feel better? Because it's not selfish to do those things, it just makes us better, it raises our vibration, it gives us more energy, we can show up for the people around us. And sometimes we have to look at it like that, because we show up for the people around us all the time, but we'll sure as hell, I'll put myself right at the bottom of that list and be like, no, I don't need to do that, I'll just scroll today, like I'll just do this. But I feel like you and I have been very consistent with showing up for ourselves, like even in the past few weeks, and it's going to change with the seasons, it's going to change with situations, and that's okay. We have to give ourselves, I feel like I do kind of like take the half-assed way out and just like the bare minimum, like a lot of times. And I feel like, like if I want to be serious about my business, then I need to be serious and clear about my business, not just like play around with it and then get mad when I post about a meditation 45 minutes before and be like, well, why isn't, see, self-sabotage. Nobody's coming. Nobody wants to come anyway, so why am I doing it? And that brings
Meanwhile,
me
did they
into
even know
like
about it?
another, that's right. And then that brings me into the next space of us planning this retreat that we have been talking about for so long, since December at least, about how we're going to present this and doing that work. And me also being like, hey, Amanda, I really am not great at the creating the post type situation. I'll do all the research, I'll do all the contact. I like that. But when it comes to like the posting and creating the website and all of these things, that is what will stop me. So why not say, this is not something that comes easy for me. Can you do it? But I did want to go into that. I can do all of it. I will just do all of it type situation. And I think undoing that, even like moment by moment, and being like, I actually don't have the time to do this today, hey, can you do this? And then we do the things for each other that we don't enjoy doing, and some of them we're not going to like that much, and we'll do them together and just hold each other accountable.
Yes. And honestly, I feel like it all stems from awareness. And I really want
Mm-hmm.
those who are listening to this to, if as long as you're not driving or something like that, maybe close your eyes for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about like this scenario, I want you to kind of think about the areas in your life where this might be happening to you, where you might be afraid to actually speak up about what you need, where you're afraid to actually express what you are struggling with, what you could use help from. Because, from this instance that Kristina just shared, I can say that honestly, and I love this. This is why these breakdowns, because as we break this down, it's making me realize how much I do this in other areas of my life as well. But in this particular instance that we're referring to, not only is she talking about how she spoke up and communicated, what she would need to be able to help like us work together, like what do I bring to the table? Well, guess what? Us communicating to that was able to help me acknowledge that one of the biggest things that I struggled with was actually hitting the hitting the button to book it, to trust myself enough to
Mm.
actually go through with it, to believe that I can actually like put something together, like even though I know I can, like that's ridiculous. A lot of people know I can too, which is why it's ridiculous that we even question ourselves the way we do. We talked about imposter syndrome in the last episode. Um, it's a real human thing that a lot of people deal with. And I guess just when it's all said and done, what I'm getting at is, Kristina talked about the parts that she knows that she like thrives in and the parts that she might not be as strong at. And I was able to kind of be like, well, okay, cool, because this aligns with the parts that I might, feel opposite about. And if there are things where if you're working with people, this is how you build a team, because maybe like it doesn't align as luckily as it does for us, where like we both, I mean, we've even talked about like if we were cooking a meal, like I love to cook, but I hate to clean it, whereas you actually have no problem with the cleaning aspect. Like those are
Right.
the things where you don't learn if you don't communicate. And like I said, it ties to other areas in life, because maybe there's parts of it that neither of us are able to really, compensate for, and that's when you got to bring someone else in and you communicate that. And it's like that's how we build a team in our community. Like it's not supposed to just be this one-sided thing where all of us are struggling. We all have different parts of us that we can contribute just to the world. The most simple things sometimes. Sometimes it's honestly, I know it's cheesy to say, but sometimes it's as simple as an act of kindness by like smiling or waving at a stranger you don't know. Like people don't understand how much that makes a difference sometimes. If that's not you, that's fine. Like I'm not saying that they're that walking through life with RBF makes you a bad person, because you can still be one of the most loving, caring person like people in the world that way. So my point is, what is it that you can offer to the world that's small and loving, whether it's smiles or whether it's something that no one sees or even knows is happening behind doors? Like, oh my gosh.
That's, yeah.
No, you
But
know
I
what?
mean,
You
like,
go.
we're what? Go ahead.
You go.
What?
But I do want to
Okay.
say that this brings me to the whole idea of people even just willingly throwing trash on the ground. That blows my
Well,
mind.
yeah.
We don't need to
Right.
go
And
into that
it's,
rant, but
but it's, but like, I feel like society has tried to keep us so separate and separated, and you have to do this by yourself. But look at other cultures, other countries, how like important rest is. No, we're not going rush, rush, rush. Our kids, their kids aren't in 75 activities, but also like even thinking back to ancient times, like where we were in community, everybody's bartering, everybody is doing these things where it's togetherness, it's community. One person's sick, somebody else is stepping in, and it's not all about the money, it's all about the lifting each other up. But when we say it takes a village, like you have those friends that can pick your kids up or drop them off, or this one's stepping in if somebody's sick, like let's make them food. And I feel like everything has been so separated, and now we're finally like aware enough to see that that's been happening and coming back into these communities, and just creating these spaces is like, what exactly what we want, because it's what we need, but also have needed at different times in our lives. And not every single person is going to be like at the same exact place, and we are not better than, or have, sometimes it's just we had that experience even last month, so like let us support you in that as well. And then we're learning from all these other people that are coming into our lives, but it's like that separation aspect and not having that like communal space to be able to do that creativity, to be able to have these conversations, to have those like reflections, and actually our nervous systems like be at rest for once, instead of this go 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 all the time, because we're constantly responding to the next thing, the next activity. We're living in the past, we're looking ahead to the future. So it's like, where can we bring this presence into our lives, and how do we do that? And like being present makes us realize, oh, we don't actually really enjoy doing those things. Where can I ask for that help, that I will be supported, and not feel like, well, I just had to ask you and now you're only doing it, and like now it's like this big tension type thing. It's like, oh, like I actually don't mind cooking in a certain way if I'm not doing everything by myself. And it's that bringing that accountability and that space of like being able to ask for that and having it be received as well.
That absolutely makes that absolutely makes perfect sense. And I feel like what it all comes down to, it's almost funny because while you're saying this, I'm thinking like, okay, yes, so how do we do this? And it's like it just comes back to really addressing our basic needs. Because you said something last week, actually, in our last mindful mental breakdown, and I've actually been thinking about it since. And it was that it was a quote about how we wake up in the morning with these blaring aggressive alarms in our face because
Mm.
we don't trust
Hmm.
ourselves to wake up because we're not getting rest. And
Right.
I realize like I like think of all the other things in our life that like we actually make more difficult for ourselves, or like we make more stressful when it really doesn't have to be, because we're not actually just tending to our basic needs in the first place. Like even when it
Yep.
comes to, nourishing ourselves with a diet that fits us and how we feel good. Eat like any of that stuff. Like I feel like it's, and you know what I mean. I wanted to say something even less obvious than that because I feel like that's something we all talk about. You know, I mean, we treat hygiene like self care. We treat basic
Right.
hygiene like
Like it's
self care.
optional. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like the stuff that we have to do, like these things that actually affect our health, like we treat that like, like we have to
As
be
a
proud of
chore.
ourselves when we get to even do
Right.
it. We're too tired to do it. And then
Right.
we feel like it's a
Right.
big deal when we finally do. And then, another thing is in this day and age with the cost of things, the cost of living in our world, I feel like one of the scarier things that's happening is that we also are like are in a place where we work so hard. A lot of people like feel like they're working and don't have much to show for it. And those who do, like, great, but still they have other things that are bothering them. Like everyone, like right now the energy is so heavy, and when it's all said and done, we then have to take that hard-earned money that we're exhausted trying to get and gamble with it, because we don't even like, there's zero consistency in anything that we get anymore because everyone's so burnt out they don't even care about like basic customer service. Like I'm not saying the
Right.
customer's always right, but like we are paying for something. Like the customer always right shouldn't have ever became something that justifies people acting like assholes. That's just like not
No.
what it should be.
And that
But
that kind of gets into the like, um somebody older than you deserves respect just because they're older than you, which is wild to
well,
me.
yeah,
Even if they're acting out of line and very disrespectful, we're just supposed to respect them because of their age. Absolutely not. That does not
when in
work for me.
reality, I actually love that example you just gave, because in reality, I feel like this is how like respect can be like taught better in life, because even with children, you know what I mean? Like there's ways
Yeah.
for like a lot of times it's funny how we are taught to respect the adult that's throwing a tantrum just because they're older than us, but we are taught to punish the child that's throwing a tantrum just because they don't understand and they
Right.
haven't learned yet. And we tell them to just respect their elder. Like basically, we're telling them, well, behave until you're old enough to act like this yourselves then.
Yeah.
Like, what is that
Right.
teaching anybody? How about we all learn how to communicate and ask for what we need and speak up when something's bothering or hurting us and not feel scared of, that. And, the same thing ties to like in community. I know a lot of times I end up like with a service or a product, I I don't really go into it with high expectations these days at all. But I like base level. You just want base level, like getting what you paid for. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
I don't. I feel like right now it's expected where it's like you get what I give you because I exist and you should respect me. Now the reason I say that
right.
is because obviously respect has been lost, the true meaning of what respect should be or what it means. So I kind of want to break that down. How do we come back to that? Like, how does respect get properly taught and learned and, lived with again?
Yeah, and I feel like it's situational, honestly. Like we're responding to a world that's so, our nervous systems are so out of whack because you're even starting, your day like that and everything's a rush and you're looking at your phone immediately and then you have to go to this place and that place and whatever. So we're not even regulated as people or humans in a society, and our kids aren't regulated, but they're also not understood and they're not taught, and they're also, shoved in classrooms for 8 hours a day and told to sit still basically, and
Because they're
then
getting
they're
ready
just
for the 8 hour workday
right, exactly.
that they're supposed to
So
work, like, and sit still at. But sorry, keep going.
yeah, yeah, I mean that's a whole other podcast. We're really popping off here.
That's true. That's
So
a
I
whole
think
nother
it's,
conversation.
yeah, the whole thing about respect is like it comes back to boundaries. And what is a boundary? How do we implement them into our lives without putting up a wall? I think this is really important to like implement, and that's like when you start to respect yourself and what you will allow and tolerate in your life and why. It's kind of unpacking it, right? Like where we are as adults, but also teaching children these boundaries of like, hey, I'm not that comfortable. And I know we're kind of a few minutes into this space, but I did have to speak up for myself the other day during a meeting that was not disclose the people that were going to be there in a situation. And I said, I'm not comfortable with this. You did not disclose that this was what the situation was going to be. I asked you for a meeting, and I don't understand what is going on here, and I'm not participating in it. And I walked out. And
I
I
love that
wanted
for
to flip
you.
out. I wanted to flip out, and I felt like I was coming out of my body a little bit and I had to remove myself, but I'm also not going to be uncomfortable for somebody else at this point in my life, and nor should I ever. But now that I have the awareness, like I absolutely will not do that. I wouldn't do that to somebody else. And it's, comes from communication, it comes from awareness, and not everybody is aware of their selves or what's going on around them or how it would affect somebody else. And a lot of people just don't care. So it's
Well,
like,
yeah, no, and you know what? As you're saying this, it's making me realize too. I was talking about basic needs a second ago. Meanwhile, I wasn't even realizing until we just kind of started getting a little bit deeper into this that it's also about like one of those basic needs is, respecting ourselves, like
yes,
learning what is good for us and what doesn't, and not forcing ourselves to just sit through what's not. And
right.
like, oh my gosh, like I love that you spoke up for yourself, because how often in life do we feel like, oh, well, we're here now, we're sitting here, like I guess I just got to do this, and we make ourselves just like go through the motions. And meanwhile, as our stomach is in knots and our chest is palpitating, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but I feel like you know what I'm talking about. Your palms
Yeah.
are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy.
Oh
Like,
no. Oh
okay,
no.
wow, we gotta
Don't,
respect
let's not.
ourselves. You know
Right.
what?
And
Keep
like
going.
be aware enough that, things are not okay, and not okay. If we're feeling that uncomfortable around a situation, like, why are we doing that?
Exactly. And how do we learn how to actually, I think that's one of the things because, okay, we, like you said, we are taught this in life, especially like in the school system. We're pretty much going through, like, you know how it is. Like, there are children who they finish the day and they're like, well, you just kind of have to sit here now till it's all over. And they're just
Oh
literally
yes.
sitting in a classroom. And, we do the same thing with work. Like, a lot of people, there's sometimes, going into the office for some people is actually really helpful. The structure of going in, like, I know personally, I'm grateful we have the space to go into to be able to go get some work done because sometimes when I'm at home, I can't, like focus on what I need to get done for work because I can't separate the two. However, sometimes I do need to work from my bed and I actually end up getting more done that way sometimes. So I like having the choice, but we take that choice away from humans with a lot of the structure and we teach them it from a really young age that this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it's going to go, and there's no other choice. And I feel like maybe that's one of the biggest things, again, these basic needs. What are some of these basic needs? I said that I really wanted to separate it from, you know, I didn't want to be going with what we all know. Like, we need sleep, we need food, the hygiene of just even taking a shower or like just taking care of ourselves. I want to separate it from that to like some of the things we
Yeah.
don't think about, like respect, like we just said, or those setting those boundaries for ourselves, learning, knowing what feels good for us and what doesn't, and honoring that. Because I feel like we're learning that we're learning our whole lives that we're just, it is what it is. Go through the motions, it is what it is. You see people, hey, how's it going? Living the dream. Yep,
You're right.
same. Like, okay, but like, obviously this isn't the dream. Like, we're obviously all being sarcastic. No one likes this. Why are we doing it? Like, and,
Right.
and
Right.
again, I get that there are some people that like this is the dream and it's working for them, and that's fantastic. But we all deserve that choice, and I believe that choice is one of the things that I'm now listing as one of our basic human needs.
Right. Because we think we don't have that.
Yeah, and we deserve that, just like every other creature on this earth does. I don't want to actually even get into that. That's another whole podcast too, like we were just saying, like whole different topic of how for some reason humans really believe that this earth is just ours to, ours to do,
Mm.
like do what we please with, and that the other animals and other beings and other living things that exist amongst us don't deserve that choice to just thrive and exist as well. And that's a whole nother topic, but I do
Yep.
believe that on this list of basic human needs that I'm circling back to, aside from all of those things we think about and the things that we know we should be doing, whether we're doing them or not, it's not the point. We know about those. We don't often realize.
Wow. Wow. I just got a text message that I did not think that I was gonna get. Holy shit, I'm really sorry that I.
No, don't be sorry. That's the whole point of these is the breakdown of things that are happening real time. These are real life conversations, raw and
Yeah.
unscripted, baby. What's going down? Is it something you want to share or something you want to circle back to?
Uh, it's a whole, I think it's a whole nother episode. Sorry to interrupt you,
No.
but this is mindfully chaotic.
Yeah, listen, no, honestly, I'm actually glad that that did happen because it also feels like the universe's way of keeping us on track because these we got quite a few different topics going here, and I do want to keep it simple because that's the whole point of all of this. We don't want to be
Right.
overcomplicating it for ourselves and everyone else. And we also made it a point to, hit record on this phone call right now so that we can keep up this consistency for ourselves, keep ourselves accountable. But we did say that we were going to keep it kind of short and sweet. So I
Right.
think that that was a good little reminder for us to stay on track. And I think that everything that we were saying holds a lot of value, as it mostly usually does. But like, we just need to listen to it ourselves because that's where it all begins. Like the way that as a community, as a world, like the only way for any true healing to begin as a whole is for us to individually start respecting ourselves, start believing in ourselves and trusting our choices, and knowing that only we know what's right for us and only we can actually make the choices that align with us individually. And if things don't align and work out, we have to trust and believe that there are other options and that we can continue to make choices that suit us without feeling like we have to worry about being punished for it.
Right. Absolutely. And also guilty. that
Oh
we're
my
making
God,
these choices.
seriously.
But I also even have to every day stop and remind myself I actually have a choice, that I don't just have to do these things.
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to do all of the laundry before I eat a meal? Or like, why do I have to rush down to switch the laundry over before I make myself lunch? Like,
Yep.
insanity.
And
Who
I
told me
think,
that? Why
and
am I living like this?
it's so true. And I think it would be easier to support one another, like in the communities as well, if we weren't putting so much pressure on our individual selves about such mundane things, too. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, of course, when it affects other people's time and when it affects other people's lives, like if we committed to something, we should figure out a way to make that work. Things happen. So if something really does happen and it doesn't align, like I believe we should be
Yeah.
able to politely make those, there's exceptions, but for the most part, when it involves other people's time and energy, we should obviously be being mindful about not letting them down and showing up for them. But I think part of the reason why we end up in these like stressful situations where it's so difficult to do is because we're not even doing the bare minimum for us. We're barely doing the bare minimum for ourselves when it comes to that. So how are we expected to not like lose our temper and get frustrated when things aren't aligning, when we have so much to do in a day for ourselves, for others, trying to figure out how to show up for everyone and everything, and not even really realizing that we're not even showing up for ourselves. Like, how do we do that?
I know.
So that's
Yeah.
something we're going to have to like really break down and come back to. But I want to leave people thinking with it too. And, I'll even create a poll on this episode. I would love to hear people's thoughts. If anyone ever wants to reach out with comments and let us know what they're thinking too, what are some of those things that we can do to come back to just like those basic human needs of being human, where we can treat ourselves with such grand respect that it just flows naturally to those and everything else around us. We shouldn't have to think about it. We shouldn't be so stressed out and burnt out that we have to think about how to like, you know, not be assholes 24/7 to ourselves and everyone else.
Right. I agree.
And honestly, I think that's why we're here. We're breaking it down. We're breaking it down as mindfully as possible. These mindful mental breakdowns on mindfully chaotic. And, we'll keep trying to show up for ourselves and for each other and for those of you who choose to join us. I am grateful for those of you who do, those of you that are here in whatever form it may be. And thank you, Kristina, for joining me because I really am glad that we did this today, even though, you know, the second that we didn't do something on Monday, we could have just called it quits and fallen into that pattern.
Yes.
So thank you for breaking this cycle with me.
I'm excited. Things are happening and we're telling them.
We're telling them, and big things, they're here, baby. They're happening. It's all unfolding for all of us and for those around us. We just have to
And for
decide to
them.
accept it. We just have to claim it. We have to figure out how to come back to who we are and connect with ourselves. And we're figuring it out, and we're going to help you figure it out too, people. So we're going to keep telling them. And again, this is a mindful mental breakdown on Mindfully Chaotic. I'm Amanda Marie, and this is my wonderful friend, Kristina Murphy, here with me. And yeah, love and good vibes, everyone. Loving good vibes.
Bye.
Woo! We done did that.
We did.
I'm gonna stop this recording and go from there.
Ah. Wow. I just got a text message that I did not think that I was gonna get. Holy shit, I'm really sorry that I.
No, don't be sorry. That's the whole point of these is the breakdown of things that are happening real time. These are real life conversations. Raw and
Yeah.
unscripted, baby. What's going down? Is it something you want to share or something you want to circle back to?
It's a whole, I think it's a whole nother episode. Sorry to interrupt. Oh shit.
Okay. This is a little side recording that I could say that I'll save it for later, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna tie it right into what we just talked about because I am not going to give the story away. It's not my story to tell. But all I need to say is that after we stopped recording, we, got into a couple of more like personal details of one of the things that are going on, and I have to say that Kristina just blew my fucking mind because she just actually gave me in a visual example of setting a boundary walking away from the situation and still having the result that she wanted to come into fruition. And she didn't have to sit there and suffer through what made her uncomfortable in order to get what needed to get done. And I'm so proud of that. We're not going to talk about the details of it now because that is a whole different episode that we'll get into. But I wanted to side note this and add this in because I am blown away. And I am so proud of you, Kristina, and I'm grateful that you shared it with me. And I'm excited to eventually share it with all of them as well because holy shit. We don't have
Right.
to do the things that don't make us feel good to get done the things that we got to get done.
Right. And it's like it took me that whole day to like really regulate myself, and I was not trying to perpetuate the situation within my own energy, and it was very hard this week. And it is what it is, and the outcome was exactly what I wanted, but it really does bring it back to that, like, I stood up for myself with something that I was uncomfortable with, that I was like maybe would have tolerated or just suffered through because I would have tried to appease somebody to get something that I want instead of respectfully standing up for myself in a way that I was like, this is not going to be tolerated. And there really are only one or two options at this point. And the situation that was brought to me not only was potentially dangerous, very uncomfortable, very uncalled for, and also made absolutely no sense for what was going on. When I requested a meeting with a specific person and other parties were brought in that had something to do with it, but it was just a very inappropriate situation. And I was also not letting this person go on being naive and or stupid or playing stupid in that point. I was like, absolutely not, and I will not be part of this. And I still stood firm in that. And I did get upset afterwards and in some of the discussions that we were having, but I still kept my cool. I was more upset about how the situation was making me feel and then directing it towards that person, when previously I would have kept it to myself. I would have just been very angry and not shown that I was upset, but also myself and other people around me held those boundaries, and we were like, absolutely not, like, this is completely inappropriate, and what's happening here is not only inappropriate, it's illegal. So like, I'm not,
Yep.
where's the boundary here, right?
I mean,
Like, so
seriously. And then, honestly, though, I really need to highlight you guys heard it real time. Again, without the details, that text message that Kristina was like, whoa, I didn't expect this because we actually don't expect things to work out for us if we don't suffer. And that's wild. So I am
right.
so proud of you for not letting the expectation, take you away from the reality of holding that boundary and holding firm. And I think it helps, you know, based off of, those that I do know that I know are a part of this too. I think it helps when we know that like we have strong people around us, and it's just another example of that as well. Building a community who can help support you stand true in what you believe in. It's so important. So, wow.
I know, wow.
Wow.
Because I'm always ready for a fight, and it was just done in a different way.
No, you set
But
a boundary and
also,
and they
yeah,
fucking listened.
yeah, like, it's not something I was willing to waver on, and it's not a wall. It's not to punish anybody else. It's to keep yourself safe and be clear with what you will accept in your life. And it really helps you uncover and unpack where you are not when you're accepting less, or like putting yourself, below somebody else's comfortability or feelings. And not that we have to act like assholes and make other people uncomfortable for us to be uncomfortable, but there's a way to do it, and there is a balance, and there is boundaries are not going to make other people comfortable, and we have to be okay with that as long as we are speaking our truth and holding them to keep ourselves safe.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The thing is, I absolutely believe wholeheartedly in everything you just said, and I believe from the bottom of my heart that it's also almost just like, whatever greater powers may be at be, it all circled back to the fact that you respected yourself. And so in return, you were granted the respect of being able to have the outcome you were looking for. And no, does it always go exactly how we hoped right away? Not always, but when we stand firm and we stand true and we continue to speak our truth, we can make it happen the way we need and want it to for ourselves, for those around us, and we can create that world where we actually feel safe
Right. Hmm. And not feel guilty about that.
and not feel guilty about it. Wow. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And like I said, I think
Wow, that's
we'll,
amazing.
yeah, I think we'll circle back to this at some point and we'll, use this as a whole different, we'll use this, the real scenario one day, as a whole different podcast topic. But I'm glad we
Yeah,
were able to use the basics of it to really break this down. I really am, because I'm looking at this and again, I'm just like, wow.
I know. Yeah, I mean, pleasantly surprised. And, it's expect the unexpected, but also expect that things are working out. And that's kind of a fake it till you make it for me. Like, still, even in this realm, when I see and know, when I see it happen to other people, and I do see it for me, but it's like, oh, we need to sign your sign. And like, being grateful for these things that are happening. And maybe, like, I was getting frustrated that I wasn't getting the answer that I wanted instantly. I knew that we had to wait and breathe, but my whole situation, like, my first thing to do is like just run. Like, fuck this, I'm not doing it
And
anymore.
that's a very
Like,
normal
Marissa's like,
response for people. Very normal response for
yes.
people.
And
Or
like,
common, I should say. I won't use the
and
word normal.
I stayed in being uncomfortable in that feeling. I didn't stay in an uncomfortable situation with another person or that type of situation, but I let myself be uncomfortable. I let myself feel those feelings, and I let myself just like be like, I know that at this point I am not getting an answer today, so like, I just have to let it go, but keep my boundary and keep what I it's either one thing or the other. At this point, there was really no gray area.
Well,
um
that's a key factor that I actually really want to highlight though, is that, it really ties along to that learning what's actually right for us, what aligns and what doesn't, because it's okay to be like, like you said, it's not going to be comfortable. Setting boundaries is not going to be comfortable, honestly, mostly for anyone involved, at least when you start getting used to it. Like, the people who have been walking all over you are going to be shocked that you're setting boundaries. The world that's used to just getting what they want are shocked that you're setting boundaries. And you, who's used to just going through the motions, we're shocked when we're setting boundaries, right? So when it's all said
right.
and done, it's learning what's right for us so that we can make that choice to sit in what's uncomfortable, instead of actually like uncomfortable in a way where it's like, oh, this isn't uncomfortable, this is uncomfortable because I'm not used to actually, like, speaking up and trusting the process and trusting my choices and waiting it out, versus this is uncomfortable because this is a physically unsafe situation that I'm sitting through because I'm hoping to be able to get a result out of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I think we could definitely come back to all of this in a different episode, but I wanted to really make it a point to get it out there. This was absolutely just wow.
I'm glad we did it too.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this with me, and thank you for helping me share it with them.
Yeah, we have to tell them.